All right, Sue McDermott, welcome to the WealthTech podcast. It is great to have you back on the pod. Just for the viewer's sake, just let people know that Sue was actually the first external person on the podcast, and she is episode one. So I'm happy to reconnect after a couple years. I thought, Sue, maybe we spend a little time and revisit our conversation from 2 years and see what's changed and what stays
God,
the
has it
same.
been 2 years, Mark?
2 years and a couple gray hairs later. Right off the bat, I mean, I think one of the focus of our earlier conversation was around best of breed. I think, this is kind of settling out. I think there's been a lot of movement in there, but 2 years later, how do you think that thesis is held up? What do you think's changed? Talk to me a little bit about it.
I mean, I think, in concept, it's still uh the way to go, right? It's still the mentality. I think some of the language has changed as some of the tools evolve and change. So, um while the concept is still the preferred, I don't know that I hear the best of breed language as much.
Yeah, I think you may just the people just talk about their tech stack as a natural
Exactly. Exactly.
thing. I do think, my thinking has changed a little bit on this. Yeah, obviously, there's no one right answer for every family office. And it's good that they have alternatives out there in the space. I do look at it as more of it's not a thousand points of light, that it's more that you have primary platforms, and these platforms then have integration points around that. For example, Addepar would be the front office, a financial general ledger would be the back office, and then you have natural integration points off of that. For us, that would be bill payment, for example, or credit card data coming in from banks and third-party data providers. For you have alternative investments, you have custodial data feeds. I think that's how I'm looking at it now, is that there are platforms out there, and that these platforms have kind of key natural integration points.
That's
That's
exactly
the way
how
I think
how
of it.
we see it too. And I think, as obviously we'll talk a little bit about AI later in our conversation, but right, it's not less about the tools, but I think the starting foundation and the data platform
Yeah.
is really the hub to all of that, and is, certainly how, as Addepar evolves, we are positioning ourselves as that primary data hub off of which many variety of tools can operate.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. A data hub, a platform, that you're a natural for that, and kind of a center of gravity within the tech stack. The
Yeah.
the the biggest issue, in this platform approach, or this best of breed, for a long time has been the IBOR to ABOR connection, the getting the front of the house, the investment system to talk to the financial accounting aspect of it, single-sided investment information converted into dual-sided general ledger information. Why has this problem been so hard to solve in the past, and what progress has been made in this area?
A number of reasons, I think, why the problem has been hard to solve, right? I mean, both business reasons and technology reasons. I mean, to begin with, the consumers and the, you know, analysts and decision makers on the investment team are looking at totally different things and analyzing and deciding different things than, detailed record keeping for what's already happened for the purposes of, reporting largely tax and
Tax prep,
regulation.
right?
Right. So the business purposes are wildly different. Now, those data sets certainly are at the core the same, and only, at tertiary levels necessarily do they start to really vary from each other. Um, Moving into the technology side of it, historically, technology wasn't as able, right? It wasn't in a position to do, whether it was very fast, high levels of not calculation, but computation and processing and interpretation, right? So,
Transformation. Yeah.
yeah, the technology has come a long way in sophistication and speed, in
Yeah.
being able to translate the pieces of those data sets where they're different. Start from that core where they're the same, and we've gotten a lot more sophisticated and faster at creating the pieces that each of those decision-making bodies really need to have. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but
There's a reason why, because it's complex,
right,
right?
right. And it all comes back again to this data hub that needs to needs to be right, Mark, right? Needs to be quality. I think
Yeah.
the other thing that's evolved with technology is our ability to maintain data integrity, right? The tools make it easier for us to be better.
Yeah. Reconciliation is not quite the issue it used to be. That used to be
It's
a
not
real
the same
chore for.
conversation it used to be.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right about they're very divergent purposes. One's trying to minimize risk and maximize performance, where the other one's try to really sensitive to cost basis,
Right.
and also try to tax prep and have a unified view of the wealth. They want, a holistic balance sheet is certainly one. There are multiple options now in the marketplace, which I think is great. This, is a problem that's solved. I mean, I think part of the problem too is a little bit on family offices with QuickBooks. Like QuickBooks is, you can't really build a sustainable, scalable integration to something that is doesn't have the structure to the chart of accounts that you need. In some cases, a single entity, like, that's just it's
Right.
retail
And
software.
the single entity and lack of consolidation challenges that a user faces with QuickBooks, the integration faces those same challenges, right? So it makes it hard.
I'm just gonna say, just say no to QuickBooks. I'm gonna get a bumper sticker. It's gonna have the little
Yeah.
slash through it, and it's
Like the no nuke sign in the 80s,
right,
right?
right. Just say no. Um, so, what has actually improved in the marketplace? What are some, since we've talked a couple of years ago, obviously there's been so much growth in AI. We'll get into that certainly in this conversation, but
Yeah.
what is new? What is hype? What is having an impact?
I mean, I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record. I think, those of us who live the data and the technology every single day, have known for a while that this data hub platform play of really clean quality data at the center of everything. Um, I'm excited to say that's the trend. Like everybody's getting it. The consumers
Yeah.
are getting it. The providers are getting it. So I think we're all starting to focus on on the right foundational things. So I think that's a happy trend. Um, and the other trends are things that fall into place from that hub and spoke setup that you and I were discussing just a few minutes ago. Um, whether it's AI or the fact that AI is making code writing so much easier, there are a lot of new entrants of a lot of tools that clients can consider to integrate with, whether it's, the decision assistance for something very niche and specific. Um, you know, those kinds of trends make me a little leery. I'd like to see where they're going to be in a couple of years as these things are moving
Vibe
so
coding, is that
quickly.
really, is that really going to give you accurate information
Right.
given the complex business rules? I mean, I certainly look at it from a general ledger standpoint where you're kind of, closing the books and there's all sorts of balance entries, and then, you can't just necessarily take everything and throw it into a data lake and then, do some vibe coding off and expect, complete
Right.
results every single
Now,
time, right?
in that though, what has actually improved, there are some, really quality new solutions of, you know, integration, hub and spoke, still very, very important, very integral, very popular. But I think you mentioned data lake, some of the things that are on the horizon that we're really excited about, to me, they mean less data transport, right? The more off, it's like that game of telephone. When you pick up
Swivel
data, you
chair,
move
yeah.
it and you put it somewhere, it's either reinterpreted or it's dropped something. So I do think that some of the new technology, Addepar certainly is part of that in our ADX offering, is how do we create a space where you know the data and the tools for this hub and spoke can sort of live in all the same place, so there's less picking up and putting down. I'm not saying there isn't translation, right? Like a sell trade still needs to be translated into journal entries for special tax treatment because my family's going through wealth transfer, right? Those things are always going to be needed, or at least for now. But if we could pick it up and move it a little less, I think we could achieve faster, more insightful, more relatable information. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about those trends.
I think that's a good one. Every time you used to have to you swivel chair that data, you had a reconciliation point you had to deal with too, so it became really arduous. Now it's a little bit easier to pull information together without having to go through that. I do think that probably the two biggest trends, aside from AI eating the world, would be the optionality that you mentioned, that family offices really have more choice now, almost in every single category. Alternative investment data management, I look at that there used to be a pervasive problem that had no solutions. Now there's multiple quality solutions in the marketplace,
Yep.
and you're also seeing like some of these new entrants are built on a more modern tech stack. And I'm not talking about like legacy providers that have been around 20 years. I'm talking about, somebody that was 5 years ago,
Five
that's
years
somebody
ago,
that's
I
two
know,
years. Like that tech stack is dramatically different. You can
dramatically
iterate
different.
in an AI native platform, right? I also think that the ability for firms to own their own data, like that's a real possibility now, and to do lots of different things of it. One is, obviously you have that vendor risk, which you can switch out the nodes on your tech stack a lot easier. But also then you can start doing things with your data, which you have it all in one place and put AI on top of it, BI on top of it.
And you can evolve
Um,
and change your mind and not have to redo it all.
yeah, or not have to do these massive inception to date,
Data
data conversions
conversion,
when you do these
yes,
new systems too. Those are,
right.
that land war in Asia, especially with the general ledger. It's like it's so expensive, it's so costly. So there's really, those I think are really some of the big ones out there. Let's talk a little bit about this owning your own data.
Yeah.
Family offices. I think it should be a part of every firm's tech stack, whether you're advisor or family office. How should family offices think about that and approach that?
Well, I would go back a little bit to some of the trends that I'm talking about, right? Like they have they have the ability now to um have much more sophisticated tools at their fingertips than ever before. Um I do think when they're looking at data platforms and tools and systems or whatever you want to call them, um, that needs to be a topic of discussion as they're making selection, right? Do I own my data? What does portability mean? How
Yeah,
easy is it for me to get at it?
yeah,
Um, you know, I know family offices have done a lot of great work and are focused on asking good questions about privacy, cybersecurity. I'm not going to go deep into those. Those are a given, table stakes, if you will. But I think, digging into the conversation of the data itself, where does it live and how do I get at it? And when you say I own it, in what format can I take it?
yeah. Is that a
Uh,
usable format? How easy is
right,
it? Is it to get my hands on it? How
right.
often can I get my hands on it? Yeah, those are all good questions I should be asking as part of the due diligence process. Um, let's get into AI a little bit. Obviously, that's one of the fastest moving, biggest trend. It's literally eating the world in almost every industry. Addepar's come out with their AI offering called Addison.
Yes.
How has Addison changed the Addepar platform and the overall experience?
And to be clear, we're using AI in a number of ways, and I can talk to you a little bit more about that. But Addison is our, user assistant. Um, it's pretty amazing. I think as a user, one of the things that used to be a little challenging about Addepar is if I questioned something or I wanted to learn how to do something, apply a filter, run a report, build a report. I wanted some help, go to the help center. Finding that the right content, there was a lot of content in there. So finding it wasn't always easy. So the first thing Addison does is interact with users in natural language and help them gain the benefits of all the content in the help center. And it gives really clear step-by-step how-to examples and also provides all the source articles and materials it used to arrive at that. So there's that. Um, moving into more of the portfolios themselves. So conversational analysis, right? And I've got a meeting in 10 minutes. What are the biggest detractors and contributors to the portfolio in the last quarter without having to run a report? Um, right? So it can give me really quick talking points for meeting with clients without having to kind of go through a bunch of analysis views and reports. Um, it's, beginning to provide more generative insights, automatically surface certain drivers, whether those were, detractors or contributors or other portfolio highlights. Um, and, to step back a little bit, one of the things that we see, we talked a little bit about all these tools that are out there, right? I mean, every AI tool is available, and we do think clients need to be cautious of that, right? One of the dangers a little bit is sort of AI sprawl.
Yeah,
And we are taking a very thoughtful, intentional, native, internal to Addepar approach. Um, so these are not bolt-on tools. These are our own
yeah,
engineering building it to the platform. Um, and as such, it reads all of the other infrastructural things already in Addepar, like permissions, and attributes and
right.
things like
I think
that.
that's important to note. I think you do look at the AI has a chance to kind of repeat some of the mistakes in the past with all these like siloed, point solutions, right? And then the other thing I think you bring up a good point is that, when you're talking about enterprise institutional software controls, user controls, permissioning's really important.
Yeah,
That you want to make sure that whatever capabilities you have is tied into that control mechanism. You don't want something subverting that.
I think
Obviously,
lastly,
even
all of Addison's insights are explainable, traceable, and verifiable, right? So we know our clients are in a position, whether it's audits or answering to the board or
yeah.
right? So you need to be able to prove that the AI was accurate and where did it get its information from?
So you're making, investment committee recommendations, right? Like you don't want to have a hallucination that, well, yeah, I just made it up. No, there needs
Right.
to be sourced and attributable. Um, the AI and the data problem that family offices have, I think part of what you're seeing with AI is that AI needs, like any system, but in particular, it's really sensitive to really needing good data to get good results.
Yes.
I think, these family offices in the past are still do. They sit on a mountain of data. They may not even know all the data that they sit on or where that data is or whether it's usable or not. How does AI help solve that data problem and how does it help expose that problem?
I mean, obviously every situation is a little different, but I think, if we think about, I don't know about you, we're certainly encouraged at Addepar and I'm just personally curious, right? So how can Addepar change my daily life, my life at work? Obviously, there's a line, it can it can perform, repeatable, automated, easy stuff. But I think one of the great things that I have found is, after 5 or 6 years at Addepar, I have a lot of documents, a lot of notes, a lot of emails, a lot of
Yeah,
stuff. And I talk to a lot of people maybe one time or one or two times. Um, I have found it really helpful, my example is, and this is where I've seen my clients find it helpful with their data, is right, that data that we haven't looked at in years. It can help you glean insights from it, even if it's not in like a, beautifully readable format.
yeah,
So in a way, in the beginning, I would suggest clients use it to help them get organized. Find your stuff. Find your couch money. You know what I mean? Like, where's the stuff
right.
that you tucked away that you forgot about?
Yeah,
And start creating a thoughtful data schema, definitions, begin to know, like, I don't know is no longer an acceptable answer when you have these tools. So
yeah,
start looking through it, have it help you find, all my interactions with this fund manager from someone we haven't invested with in 20 years, those kinds of things, and start creating an organized, monitorable data structure and environment.
yeah. Be able to look at all those deals you passed on and all that data that you ended up deriving from
Yes.
that,
All
right?
those
And
people you forgot about, maybe. And
yeah,
so it can be a source of new opportunities. If you're a multifamily office, it can be a source of maybe new clients or, families you talked to 5 years ago and you can follow. So it can help you gain insight from the communications and data you kind of forgot about.
yeah, the tools are available today. I mean, I think it's important that family offices when it has an AI policy, but to go with that, they need to have somebody responsible for data governance, right?
Yes, they do. They
Somebody
need
that
data
says,
governance before they employ or
right, right. This,
apply that
we
AI.
deem this as the
Yeah,
good data, and this is the data that can be used, and that it obviously needs to happen on a regular basis. And what sources are allowed, what the frequency is, what the validation process is. It's hand in glove. Like you really need to have a data governance policy and mechanism that goes along with your AI capabilities. Or else you're gonna be spending as much time trying to question the results that you're gonna get from AI as the benefit is gonna not be as great as you'd hope, right?
yeah.
So, um, in your conversations with family offices, where are they at? What are you seeing in terms of how is it showing up in a practical way? Where do you see family offices on the ground with AI?
Well, I think A, they're all curious. B, they're all a little scared, right? I mean, there's certainly some outliers who are more technically savvy or, like to be on the cutting edge of those things. But in general, they know that clean, or they're beginning to understand that clean data is required. They're a little concerned and they don't exactly know what they've got. Um, I think that they are all beginning to use it in ways they think are safe, right? Like I said, going through communications internally, or I think they're playing with it, they're experimenting.
Yeah, it's I think that's probably a good start. I think that it's important to kind of walk,
Yes.
run, sprint type of
Yes.
thing before leaping fully into any capabilities on that. Um, Talk to me about AI. Do it yourself, like build versus buy. I thought that conversation was dead a long time ago. It's making a resurgence with AI and the capabilities that AI provides. Talk to me a little bit about, you know,
I think
DIY with AI.
I'll go back to some of what we already have talked about today, and some of the dangers uh or the risks that come with AI, right? Reliability of not even just your data, the reliability of the AI tool that you're using and in the answers it's providing, and your ability to explain those answers. Um, Data privacy and security, of course. Like, what tool is it? Where does it live? What is it sitting on? How does it get your data? Where does it store it? All that
Yeah, where
stuff,
does it go? Like, how long does
right?
it keep my data?
Right. And then, the other thing is, and this is one of my sort of all-time favorite adages, and I'll probably use it again today, but sprawl, like, you end up with one little AI thing, a bot to do this, and oh, wait, now, oh, that worked great. Let's do that. And now we have another one, and then we have another one, and now again, so like unless you have someone that it is their full responsibility to keep your data clean, and someone whose full responsibility it is to monitor your tech stack and these tools and these vendors, those two things are really big efforts that historically family offices, that's a bit of
Yeah, for a lean
a
family office,
struggle.
that's a
That's
lot
an
to ask.
expensive endeavor. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think some of the things that still apply from the, when they were even pre-AI, when people are going to build their own software, like, well, it sounds great, and maybe 1.0 is great, but guess what? You need to maintain it, right? Things change, regulatory environment changes, your tech stack changes, your requirements continue to evolve. Like anybody that's in the software business knows that it's a never-ending quest. Like you never finish evolving your product. You never say, oh, done. It's constant. You always have a product roadmap and a
Yeah.
backlog of things that you're getting to that's as long as your arm, and it never ends. And that's the problem I think, that
And
has
I think
always
it's
existed in building
unnecessary.
yourself.
Like with tools today, back when this conversation you and I had it 20 years ago, the conversation was a little different. And some of that is like today, the tools that are available that are written by professional software development firms have the flexibility, personalization, customization that they didn't have back then. There's no reason why anyone should build their own, Mark.
Right. Right. It's just, yeah, the QA quality, regression
Not for the
testing.
important stuff, right? Not to monitor your wealth and record
Yeah.
your tax attributes. No.
Financial planning. Great. Great. Um, so If you're revising a family office today, knowing everything that's changed over the past couple of years, what
Yeah.
would you do different than, our previous conversation if you look back then?
I don't know if I would do a lot different. I think re-emphasize or put greater emphasis on certain things. And here's my adage again, right? Don't allow for urban sprawl. Create a thoughtful, planned data schema and governance plan. Um, and be really choosy about the tools, the spokes to that hub.
Yeah.
Um, a planned community and not urban sprawl. Like, be really thoughtful about it.
I think that's good advice. I think it's always been that adage, garbage in, garbage out. So I would think that, take a look back on it, maybe a greater emphasis on data, making sure that you own your data, you know where your data is, that your data is clean, your historic, make that effort to get that have a data governance in place. I mean, that's kind of, I think, a universal,
Yeah.
and that's going to apply 5 years from now too. Like you
And it
need to
did
have your
back,
data be clean.
even, when you and I talked long ago, it mattered. I think what I feel differently about is those of us in a position to give ideas or provide guidance, or we really need to reinforce the importance of that clean and well-maintained data source. And like software, it's not a one and done.
Right. Right.
And that one you own. You don't have to build software, but you have to own your own data.
You have to own your own data. You have to make sure it's good data because now you can do so much more with that data than you previously could. The insights you can get, the
Correct.
support of the decision making that you can get, it's much different now than it used to be in terms of how hard you had to work to get kind of results from your data. So I like to end the podcast on a personal note with three questions that have nothing to do with wealth tech.
Okay.
If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Uh, But if I could like magically resolve small conflicts between people, and I don't
Between
mean like
individuals. Okay, yeah.
just individuals, not like, world peace. I think
World
of it on
conflicts.
as my kids, you know what I mean? I mean, world peace would be nice, but if I just
Yeah,
had like a magical thing where I could make a person see from the other person's perspective,
yeah.
um, a lot of family and colleague angst would magically evaporate. So that would be it.
That's a good superpower. I've never really thought about that. I was thinking along the lines of more of the traditional superpowers. One of the things I wouldn't necessarily want to have like time travel because I think that could mess up a lot of
That could
stuff,
get
right?
weird, yeah.
But I'd like to go from point A to point B like instantly, like the
Ooh,
Flash,
no,
right?
yep,
Hey, I'd like to
absolutely.
be in Europe. I'd like to be in Capri and not have to do like a 12-hour journey to get there,
And as
right?
someone who gets really motion sick, that would be ideal. I should have picked that one, Mark.
Yeah, that'd be. But if somebody likes to travel, I'd be like, if I could just cut out the actual travel, that would be fantastic. Um, if you weren't in wealth tech, what would you be doing now?
Something artistic or crafty, like a painter or a novelist or a sculptor, something like that.
I like it. I like it. I used to for a brief time out of college, I cook for a living. I'm glad I don't. It's a really hard job. I think anybody that's worked in food service knows the meaning
Oh,
of
I have
hard
done
work.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably be a raging alcoholic too, because it tends to be part of the
Well, that's
industry.
the environment. Yeah,
But I do like that creative process of, making something and,
me too.
just to try to get to the Anthony Bourdain concept of the perfect meal. Like I like that whole idea. Like, could I run a like 10 table bistro or something like that? Sounds great. Great in theory, anyways. But
Maybe
um,
for lunch, right? Like,
I'm happy to just be able to go. Yeah. So, anyways, book, podcast, or series that you've read or been watching that you'd recommend?
um, All right, here's my a little bit of an Addepar plug, but I have to say the blog series on currently on AI is really really good.
Okay.
But more foundationally, this is a book that I recently gave my kids because as young adults, I just think it's important. It's called The Psychology of Money by
Mhm.
Morgan Housel.
That is a good one. That's a good one to give your kids.
Yeah, because it talks a lot about the difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Yeah, a millionaire next door is another good one, right?
Yeah,
I think I recently read. I love these adventure books, like when they go to the South Pole or first person to climb Everest. Like they people back in the day did
really
just crazy
inspirational.
stuff
Yeah,
with god awful equipment and it just launched themselves. Read Down the Great Unknown. It was about John Wesley Powell and the first transverse down the Colorado River. Just fantastic read, and I just any of those. I just look back at the time period, like what they did and where they went. Lewis and Clark. It's just crazy stuff.
crazy stuff.
I love
Yep.
those stories.
Actually,
So
along those lines, I read, and it's a novel, so it's like it's a historical novel, so it's got a little drama story to it, but a lot of it's factual, called Suspension, about the
okay.
building of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
It's a good book. Pick it up. Yeah,
All right. I love those historical fiction, like it's
I do
based
too.
in, yeah, but they make the story come to life, which is great. All right, so I gotta go read the Addepar AI blog, but it's been a pleasure to have you on the
Always great to see
podcast
you. Thank
again.
you for
And
having
as
me, Mark.
always, thanks for being on.
Talk soon.